Hello everyone, welcome to today's presentation. This is Ann Potempa with the section of Chronic Disease Prevention and Health Promotion. This is part of our series of webinars provided by the division and this section, and we are happy that you joined us today. We will be offering webinars on the third Tuesday of the month at 1 p.m. and will cover a host of topics. In addition to sharing our work with you, we hope these webinars will spark your interest in learning more about our projects as well as opportunities to work together. To give you a sneak preview of a few upcoming webinars, we will be featuring Helping Alaskans Manage Diabetes next month and Preventing Injuries and Keeping Alaskans Safe During the Dark Winter in February. Other ways you can stay connected to our work is through our monthly newsletter. You can sign up for this on the section's website. Our web address is at the bottom of all of our slides. Few housekeeping items. Please keep your phone muted. Also, please do not put this call on hold. Rather, if you receive a call, please hang up and call back in. The webinar is planned for 30 minutes, a 20-minute presentation followed by 10 minutes for Q&A. Audio for this webinar will come through your computer. Another option is calling 562-247-8321. If you have technical difficulties, please let us know using the question function which you can see on this screen. You will need your microphone on your computer, or you will need to call into the number provided to ask a question out loud. Again, please hold your questions until the end of the presentation. To ask a question, please raise your hand by clicking on the hand button in the GoToWebinar control panel. Before we get started on today's topic, I wanted to give a very brief description of the work we do in the section of Chronic Disease Prevention and Health Promotion. Our vision is for healthy and safe Alaskans, and our mission is to identify and advance the conditions that lead to safe and healthy lives. The primary aspects of our work include health promotion, chronic disease and injury prevention, and data collection and surveillance. The icons you can see here represent a few of our programs and projects. I'd like to now introduce Diane Peck, a registered dietitian with our section, who will be talking about the Alaska Food Policy Council.
Thanks, Ann. The Alaska Food Policy Council, also known as AFPC, is a nonprofit organization whose diverse membership works to engage Alaskans to make positive changes for the state's food system and to create a healthier, more prosperous, and more secure future for all. My name is Diane Peck. I'm the public health nutritionist with the Alaska Obesity Prevention and Control Program, which is part of the section of Chronic Disease Prevention and Health Promotion. I've been involved with the AFPC since day one. Today I'll give you a brief overview of the AFPC, a quick history of how and why they moved from a state-funded group to a nonprofit entity, and share some of their challenges and opportunities for the future. So first, to understand a Food Policy Council, we need to understand a bit about food systems. Food systems are complex with many players and many factors that impact the availability, accessibility, and affordability of food. There are also many food systems, from our own individual food system, how we choose to obtain and consume our food, to larger community, state, national, and international food systems. In this slide, the inner circle starts with the food cycle. So production and harvest can include individual gardens, large-scale agriculture, fisheries, and subsistence or harvest of traditional wild food. Processing includes activities such as home canning, simple freezing and packaging of produce or fish, to full-scale processing or manufacturing. Distribution can involve retailers, restaurants, farmers markets, food assistance programs such as SNAP and WIC, and food banks. Waste and recycling involves dealing with the waste we generate, garbage, composting, and recycling. The outer circle on the graph includes those activities that are involved in each stage of the food cycle. So each stage has their own education, transportation, food safety, research, and policies and regulations. There are many players in the food system and many groups working on their own food issues. Sometimes programs, policies, or regulations implemented to benefit one sector can have an unintended negative effect on another. So our food system has often been referred to as broken because healthy, affordable, culturally appropriate food is not available or accessible to everyone. The Alaska Food Policy Council was formed to strengthen Alaska's food system. For the past 5 years, the AFPC has worked to convene the different food system stakeholders and to coordinate and empower their individual efforts to improve the overall food system. AFPC looks at the whole food system, what impacts food in Alaska, and what we can do to improve the health and security of our food system to feed all Alaskans. You can see by their logo, the Alaska Food Policy Council believes that a strong food system is key to a healthy, self-reliant, and prosperous Alaskan future. We know food choices impact our health. A strong local food system can increase access to healthy, affordable foods. How food is grown, harvested, and transported also impacts the economic, public, and environmental health of our communities. Alaska is very reliant on imported food. A better infrastructure and more food producers and food businesses can improve our ability to provide for ourselves and be more prepared and secure in cases of disaster and food transportation disruption. And of course, keeping food dollars in Alaska and investing in Alaska's food system increases local jobs and incomes and strengthens local economies. So what does AFPC do? AFPC brings together diverse stakeholders, examines how the state and local food systems function, and provides ideas and recommendations for improving our food systems. They act as a connector, researcher, and convener. One example of connecting is the Alaska Farmers Market Quest program. This program was developed out of connections made by the divisions of public health, public assistance, and agriculture at the very first AFPC meeting. While funding has temporarily ended for the program, connections through AFPC will hopefully help continue the program in the future. We all know Alaska is unique, and that includes our food system. Research from the lower 48 is not always applicable to us. The AFPC works to collect and support the body of research that can inform and support Alaska food policy efforts. For example, in 2012, AFPC worked with the University of Alaska Anchorage Institute for Social and Economic Research to identify and aggregate good, reliable data sources for understanding the varied aspects of Alaska's food system. And then in 2014, AFPC worked with Ken Meter from Crossroads Resource Center in Minnesota to develop an economic assessment of Alaska's food system. The AFPC reports and other Alaska-specific food system research can be found on the AFPC website, which is listed there at the bottom of every one of the slides. AFPC also acts as convener. One of AFPC's goals is to help Alaskans become engaged in our food system. In 2014 and 15, AFPC held town halls across Alaska to gain insight into local food issues, to inform AFPC and policymakers, and to increase community involvement in local food issues. Town halls were held in Juneau, Nome, Bethel, Fairbanks, Homer, Palmer, and Anchorage. And each one of these communities has a report that can be found on the AFPC website. A great example of all of these roles coming together is the Alaska Food Festival and Conference held in 2014. The goals of the conference and festival were to increase connections between the public, Alaska food businesses, and governmental agencies, highlight Alaska food systems research, and convene Alaskans to provide training and networking opportunities to increase involvement in local food issues. Over 180 Alaskans from around the state participated in presentations and hands-on workshops on topics ranging from community-based fisheries to food justice to cooking with Alaska barley products. So just a really quick history of the Food Policy Council. AFPC evolved from a growing interest in our food system problems by a variety of groups. In 2010, my office, the Alaska Obesity Prevention and Control Program, received some funding through the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to look into establishing a food policy council in Alaska. These partners quickly joined the effort to plan our first exploratory meeting. At the initial meeting in May of 2010, we were overwhelmed at the interest in food system issues and the number of people that participated. Mark Winnie, a national expert on food policy and food policy councils, helped us begin to identify common issues and potential solutions. In 2011, the governing board was established. The group works to have a diverse representation of food system stakeholders in regions around Alaska. This slide represents just some of the entities that have served over the years or are currently serving. In 2011 and 12, the governing board and other partners developed a strategic plan that continues to focus the direction of the AFPC today. The mission of the AFPC aligns with the Alaska Obesity Prevention and Control Program's goal to improve access, availability, and affordability of healthy food to improve health and reduce obesity. That's why we've been an integral part of their funding and support. So you can see, or as I mentioned earlier, the AFPC started with our CDC grant, and supporting the AFPC became a part of the strategic plan of the section of chronic disease prevention and health promotion. We provided funding for the AFPC through assistance with some staffing, contracting with outside facilitators for strategic planning and research, funding travel for face-to-face meetings, and providing some funding for things like printing. In 2012, we helped AFPC obtain AmeriCorps Vistas and continue to house and supervise a Vista today. And the AFPC governing board decided that relying on state funding was not sustainable and held potential conflicts with advocacy work they wanted to do. They looked at many models of food policy councils around the country and ultimately made the decision to become a 501c3 nonprofit organization, which they achieved in the fall of 2014. It's very important to remember that at this time, AFPC is a volunteer board with no executive director. Not just my program, but many other agencies and individuals have provided funding for activity and lots of in-kind staff and volunteer time. Key to keeping AFPC moving forward has been our participation in the National AmeriCorps Vista program. Vista is similar to the Peace Corps, but volunteers work in the U.S. and focus on capacity building for nonprofit agencies and some government programs. Over the past 3 years, the AFPC has had 5 Vistas, 2 which were focused on the Farmers Market Quest program. These Vistas were instrumental in obtaining the 501c3 status, developing a business plan, grant writing, and implementing the food conference. The current Vista is assisting with a development plan, fundraising, and planning the next food conference. The biggest challenge for AFPC is now, as a nonprofit entity, they are on their own and must raise revenue and revenue for staff and projects. They are currently working on a development plan with Foraker, a nonprofit development group, to be very thoughtful and strategic about their fundraising. And unfortunately, they cannot rely on Vistas forever and will need at least a part-time staff person. As far as upcoming activities, this year they will be implementing more strategies focused on legislative advocacy. AFPC has a new advocacy alert system to help keep members up to date on legislative actions around food. AFPC recently sent a letter to the governor highlighting their top 10 food policy recommendations and invites all Alaskans to let the governor know which of these strategies you support. You can view this letter and the recommendations on the AFPC website. And the 2016 AFPC Food Festival and Conference is happening February 26th through 28th. Each day has a different focus, with the first day is more of a food policy conference with local and national speakers. Saturday the 27th is a more fun educational food festival with Alaska food vendors. And Sunday is devoted to a food and business tour around Anchorage. AFPC is currently looking for presenters, workshop ideas, vendors, and of course, attendees. So how can you get involved with the AFPC? AFPC encourages everyone to buy local. But don't forget about helping connect your clients, patients, neighbors, coworkers to local food and producers too. Talk about food policy. Talk about food with policymakers. Share your priorities. They are interested in health, security, and prosperity. Our job is to help them make the connection to the food system and your food priorities. Think about what policies you can impact at your hospital or clinic, work site, community that could help improve access to or availability of healthy, culturally appropriate, preferably local food. That could be as simple as changing the food at office meetings to changing contract language when purchasing food to include healthy and local food. Consider starting a local food policy council. It helps connect your local food system stakeholders to address your local community food issues. And sign up for the AFPC Action Alert to be informed on the latest in Alaska food policy. The governor's letter is a great way to start to understand Alaska's food issues and an easy way to connect with policymakers about the food issues that matter to you. You can follow the AFPC on their website. You can see the arrow there to get involved, and that'll link you up with the advocacy alert. Or there's also a newsletter, a listserv, and of course their Facebook page. You can find out more about the council on their website, see lots of great Alaska food resources and food system research, and learn more about the upcoming food festival and conference. And here's my contact information, as well as our Vista, Samantha Ford, her contact information. Feel free to contact us anytime with any questions or ideas and thoughts that you might have about the Alaska food system. So I think we'll turn that over now to Ann for questions.
So that is the end of Diane's presentation. Please let us know by raising your hand if you have any questions. You can either turn on your mic or you can type your questions in. Not seeing any questions come in at the moment. We have a question here in the room from Lauren Kelsey.
Hi, this is Lauren Kelsey. Thank you. I actually had a question. So you've had such a, it looks like a broad reach on your governing board. Do you have, what's your process? Is it like they serve for 2 years and move on? Is it in elections? Or what? Do you have any tips of how that has worked to get such a good variety of people?
Well, initially, the governing board started out with those people who were working on the strategic plan, and we strategically invited those people who represented the different food system stakeholders and regions and things like that. It has now evolved to, we put out a request for people to submit a resume and statements about why they want to participate on the governing board. And then we do have kind of a matrix that we look at to determine, do we need a different stakeholder representation at that particular time? Do we have people from all around Alaska serving? So they have a kind of a plan that they follow.
Right.
And it's usually a two-year service, 3-year service. But it can, they can serve consecutively too.
Dan, we have 2 more questions that came typed into us. How much does the council work with the Cooperative Extension Office?
We work a lot with the Cooperative Extension. We actually have one person, Darren Snyder, who is in Juneau, and he is on the governing board. He has been from the very beginning. We worked with Cooperative Extension quite a bit. They were a major partner for the food conference in 2014, and they will be in 2016 too.
Thank you. We have another question. How can we get a copy of the Chem Meter report?
It's available online, and we can certainly email you a copy or send you a hard copy if you'd like. So just reach out to me or to Samantha. This is Diane. I actually had a question from someone else, so I will go ahead and pose that. Someone asked me about the vistas and how does that actually work. The VISTA program, it's a federal program, so you do have to apply federally. It can be free, but we did have a little bit of funding, and so we paid about $15,000 for one VISTA, and then it's kind of a buy one, get one free. We got 2 VISTAs for that. So that's really actually a very good deal considering all the work that they do. But you don't have to have money. You can, sign up without any money. They do have to have an office, and they have to have a supervisor, so they cannot work from home. And we've had several different offices step up to actually be that office and supervisor because obviously the AFPC doesn't really have a place yet. And so our office, the Division of Agriculture, and the Alaska Center for the Environment have all housed and staffed supervised vistas.
Okay, and we have another question that came in. Is anyone from the council going to the Alaska Farm Bureau and Alaska Growers in Juneau in February at the Governor's Mansion?
We are definitely talking about that. I'm not exactly sure who might be doing that, but we're definitely talking, and I think we'd really like to be involved with that.
Dan, do you want to talk a little bit about what you might be presenting at that event if you were to go with the new salad book that you're working on?
Sure. Again, out of the connecting with the Food Policy Council, we have been working on an Alaska school salad book with Cooperative Extension, and EED, or the Department of Education and Early Development, has also developed a school recipe book using Alaskan products. Theirs are more main dishes and some other things, while ours is focused on salads. But we hope that both of those cookbooks will be able to be presented to the governor so that he can see what great things are happening with partnerships around food and through state agencies and other groups and promoting local foods in our schools.
Great. I am seeing a hand raised by Jessica, and she also just typed in her question. Where can we get the school cookbook?
The Department of Education school cookbook is available through the Department of Education, and it's available on the Child Nutrition Program's website. Of course, just email me, and I'd be happy to connect you with that. My school salad cookbook is not quite ready yet, but should be printed sometime in January, and we'll be emailing that link out on the AFPC listserv. We have several other listservs, and if you want that, just email me, and I'll be happy to put you on a list, get you a copy.
Thanks, Diane. I am not seeing any more questions come in. Oh, one just came in.
Oh, thanks, Dawn. Yeah. Dawn is giving us some information about the Farm Bureau meeting with the governor, and thank you. I will definitely be in contact with them.
Diane, I have a question for you. Other than the funding sources, did you guys identify specific advantages of moving the council into a nonprofit?
Well, really funding is probably the biggest thing. As a state-funded entity, it was very difficult for them to actually get some grants. And so hopefully this will open up the opportunity for them to get more grants as a nonprofit, and then to do fundraising, the different types of fundraising that nonprofits do. And then also the, as I mentioned, the advocacy piece. This is about policy and advocacy, and working with legislators and governors is a big part of that. And so this will help to open that up.
Thanks.
We are reaching the end of our time here today. I'm not seeing any more submitted questions, but Diane can definitely be reached after the fact if more questions come to mind. I'd also like to remind everybody on the phone that we will be sending up a follow-up email in the next week when the PowerPoint and the webinar video are ready to be posted online, and we'll send you a link if you want to revisit this presentation. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate your interest, and we hope to see you again next month.